So, Bobby, let's start with you. What are your feelings on going to the Robert E. Howard House?
I first went to Cross Plains in 2016, and you get off the highway and you're driving through basically cow fields and ranches until you roll up into Main Street. And, it's just the speed drops down from 75 down to 45 to 35, and you're going through the town. You take a left, and then there's this little white house all by itself in the middle of a field. And there's no formal parking lot. You just pull up and you park wherever, and you get out and you see the little white picket fence. And beneath the tree, there's a little plaque to Robert E. Howard's dog. And I always go around the back. I always go in through the back. I never go in through the front door for some reason. And you enter in to this little hallway. It's a cramped hallway full of pictures on the wall, posters. There's a postcard from Lovecraft there. And the second door on your right is Rory Howard's room. And it's this tiny little room, barely big enough for the book and the trunk and the table. And there's a little rope across it. And how would you feel if you take the rope off and you walk into that tiny space where you can touch the walls with both hands, and you sit down in that chair where he sat a century ago, and you put your keys on the typewriter, and it's not his typewriter, but it's the same make and model, and everything that came from him was right there, and you're in the same place, and you cannot share that anywhere else in the world. You cannot have that experience. You cannot see and feel what he felt except right there. And I'm not a particularly spiritual person, but there is that pilgrimage aspect to everybody that comes to Cross Plains and goes to the Robert E. Howard House and walks through the rooms and sees the remaining furniture and the pictures on the wall and hears the docents tell the stories of what it was like in the 1920s and 30s for people there living in what was just a little Texas town then and is still a little Texas town now. And it is a pilgrimage. It is a moment where you can live in that moment of history just for a second, just to be where he was, just so you can share that with everybody else that comes there. And you can't get that anywhere else. And you can only get it because the house is there, because people care to buy it and preserve it and make it into the museum that it is today. And once it is gone, and who knows how long the house will last, it might last 100 years, it might last 5 years if the repairs aren't done. But once it is gone, that will be lost forever. There's no replacing it. You can't bring back what was once there. It's just going to be, you know, an empty field or maybe a parking lot. And who wants that? I want the house to still be there for other people to visit. I want people to be able to come in to town and see what he saw and sit where he sat and share that feeling of continuity, that feeling of this is where it all began. This is where we all come to when we want to feel that again. And that's why I really want these repairs to the house to continue, just so we can hold on to it as long as we can.
All right. Going clockwise on my screen. Steve, you're next.
Well, it was Bobby put it very well, all of it, and it was a real religious experience for me because I have such a close tie to Howard that people don't know about. Really, he was a country boy like me. He wasn't a scholar, and to be in that place where he was It's got to be saved and preserved. And here's something I'll never post on the internet. My wife always encourages me to behave. That's probably why I'm not in prison. And when we went through the house, the rope wasn't on the room. And she goes, "Here, jump in there." You probably can't see this, right? It's me sitting at the desk.
Mhm.
I
Awesome.
couldn't help myself.
Yeah.
And I got my big ass in there, and it was just something, there was this air of familiarity about it all. Like it was familiar. It was like I had been there before and I hadn't. And it has to be preserved for everybody else who loves him like I do. And I can't really expound much on what Bobby said because he said it the right way. And to be at his grave and to be everywhere was very surreal for me. And I'm sure not everybody feels the same way as I do and as touched by it as I was. But it was just an amazing thing to see where he lived and where he grew up and go out to Crosscut and out in the country and read his letters about drinking in the country and eating sandwiches and stuff that, not to say us country boys do those kind of things where I come from, but it was an interesting experience and it should be there for everyone forever. As long as people want to read his words, they'll carry on for all time. So yeah, I think they should preserve the house as best as possible.
Thanks. Michael?
Yeah, I went there in 2010. That's the one time I've been there. And yeah, I had that same experience driving up through the town and then seeing that isolated house and then being like, oh my God, that's the house, you know. And looking into that tiny little room. I didn't go in the room because of it was cordoned off and I didn't dare go in. But I looked in and looking in that little room in this out of the way place, Cross Plains, you can't help but appreciate there more than any place else the power of his imagination and how his imagination was unbounded, you know. And he wrote all of these amazing stories and created all of these worlds that have had such an effect on so many people. And how many writers write only because they read his work, you know? And you cannot see it and be unmoved. And it's important that the house remains. You know, you go to Lovecraft's childhood home, it's a Starbucks, you know, and you can't have any kind of experience like that at a Starbucks. You might get some good or okay coffee.
Yeah, okay.
You won't have any kind of an experience like you can have an experience here at this house, at this place. So yeah, it's incredible that it's there, and that if you're a Robert E. Howard fan, you can go there and see this place. It's important.
Bob?
Um, and I've only been the one time in 2019. I'll put a little different spin on it because it's all the things you guys are saying as well. But yeah, John, that's where I met you sitting at the foundation table selling books, and it's where I met Bobby, who I knew online, but all I knew is Bobby kept winning the REH Foundation awards that I was a finalist for every year, and then I would never win Bullard, but we'll discuss that in person again someday. But Bobby kept winning.
Well, you
I
could
was
win if you send me some cash. So,
I didn't know that's how that worked. I was walking down a hallway there on the first floor, and that's where I first saw Patrice for the first time in my life, well, only time in my life. And just sitting under the pavilion is where Jason Walt said, "Hey, what about we make that Hither Came Conan thing you did a book?" But I mean, the house is the center that brings everyone together. And I've been to Nero Wolfe gatherings in West Virginia, and I've been to Sherlock Holmes gatherings in Minnesota, and someday I'm going to get to a Solar Ponds gathering in New York City. It's the house that is the center of everything for Robert E. Howard and for us. And they could still have Howard Days. They probably will. And maybe we could meet in the library, or it would be at the high school where some of the panels are. It's where I talked to Chris when I was there. You and I were there at the same year, I think, actually. Um, he's like, I blocked that out entirely. But anyways, it's the house is the hub, and it's the legacy of Robert E. Howard, but it's what pulls all of us together, and it brings people together, unlike the way it brings Rex Stout or Arthur Conan Doyle or Derleth or Dashiell Hammett or whoever else you want to name. And man, that's something. And that's something that would be tragic to be lost, because Howard would go on, Howard fans would still go on, the foundation would go on, but it wouldn't be the same as it is right now, where we're all gathering at his house where he was, and we're sitting under the pavilion right next to it, and people are reading. Okay, I guess they're badly reading good poetry. How do I want to word that? But you know what I mean. There's I don't know of other major authors that it's like that, with the house as the hub that holds it all together. And it would be, even if you've only made it once, even if you've never made it, this is what's feeding all of this Howard fandom, for lack of a better term. And man, I don't want to see that go any more than anybody else here does. So
John?
I don't think I can say it any better than you guys already did. It's pretty damn eloquent there for the most part. When I went, the thing that struck me the most, was actually going into the house and then looking into that little room, and just how, not just how small, but how humble it was. A little bed against the wall, right across, like within reaching distance of the desk there at which he wrote. And from this little niche exploded all these stories, all these ideas. Um, the fact that something that turned out to have global influence, generational influence of people, sons and daughters, and down the many years since he left us, the fact that, he was right there in this pinched little environment, and his imagination could burst forth globally, translated into God knows how many, languages, and reaching God knows how many people, and having a profound effect on so many of them. Well, not only is that like a beautiful thing to sense, to realize that it was even possible, but it's also, in its own way, it's inspiring. The fact that he could sit there and do that and his work would not die is amazing, man. It's revitalizing. And if you haven't experienced that and you're a Howard fan, you kind of owe it to yourself to go by and check it out. The fact that the house is still there and that room is still there is reason to go back and experience this again. And don't miss it if you haven't if you haven't been there and you're a Howard fan, you should definitely take the time and effort to go there. It's worth the time and the effort to go there. I hope that they can pull in enough money to, have the Howard House be sustained and repaired so that it continue indefinitely. It's in its own way, I think it's necessary.
I was going to say that not much I can add of what everybody else has been saying. It's all very powerful and moving to me, listening to you guys talk about your experiences and feelings of going to the house. I know that
The
when I
most
became a Howard fan back in the early to mid 1970s, I had a good buddy, and he was also became a Howard fan. And I was thinking, it would be great once we got our driver's licenses to go drive up to Cross Plains. We didn't know where the house was, but just to go see the town where Howard lived and rode in, and never did that. And the first chance I really got to go up to Cross Plains and see the house was for the 2013 Howard Days. And as you all felt the same way when I actually arrived at the property where the house is and was just walking around the property, because it was a little bit before the house would open at 2 p.m. on that Thursday, and just seeing the things, seeing, as someone said, the little plaque to patch there by the mesquite tree, and just walking around the house and going to the place, morbidly, where I thought, oh, this is the place probably where Bob shot and killed himself. And then when the house opened, going in and just starting to meet all the people, Arlene Stevenson, the president of Project Pride, who's there every year and runs the house, and is usually going to be the person, if you want to go to the house for a tour, that will open the house up and take you on the tour. And starting to meet all the other Howard scholars there. I think the next person I met after Arlene was Bill Cavalier, and then I met Jeff Shanks, and just started meeting all of these great fans and starting to talk about Robert E. Howard, and then walking up and seeing his little room and just the chills I felt when I saw that small room and just thinking, gosh, this guy was here and he wrote all this incredible stuff from this very small room just absolutely floored me. And, it's become a huge part of my life in the years since becoming a member of the board of directors for the foundation. And starting this year, thanks to you, Michael, the YouTube channel for our foundation so we can start talking about our favorite author, Robert E. Howard, and his works. The house is an incredible place that everyone should go to if you're a fan of Robert E. Howard. And if you can't even get the chance to go to see the house, then please contribute to help save it. Uh, the new video that we did, which is coming out tonight on the channel, but will already have been out by the time this video goes up. Jeff Shanks goes into great detail about all the damage that the house has, and we are incredibly lucky that the west wall of the house has not collapsed. It's that bad, and that their floors. If I don't know, I know you were there last year, Steve. Bobby, I don't know if you noticed going into the kitchen how bad the floor in the kitchen is from all the sinks where the floors dropped out. And more than likely, if the house is able to have people walk into it safely at next year's Howard Days, the kitchen's going to be roped off because the floor is that bad. We can't take the risk on anybody walking into it. And then other floors in the house, such as the hallway, where the floor, I think, pretty much is buckled and is sitting on the ground right now. This house will fall apart. And please, if you have it, please donate. The address or the place to go to is the Robert E. Howard Foundation.org website. 100% of your donations will go directly to the house. There are very few charities or places that you give donations to where 100% of your money is going to the thing that we're asking help on raising the money for. Because as I said, we're all volunteers. Nobody's getting paid. We're not taking a cut. The money goes to the house. And we're looking at foundation repair, wall repair, probably floor repair, and possibly I think some possible repairs that will need to be done to the roof. But the house is falling apart, and we don't know how much longer it will be able to stand or for allow people to go inside the house unless we take these repairs to fix it. So please, if you can, donate to the fund, and also come to Cross Plains for Howard Days. We'd love to see you. Yes, sir.
One thing about the house that I noticed I went back the second day, and the tour guide lady told us this, and where Bob wrote in his room, there's a window to the next room because it was obviously added on to the house, his room, and it was his parents' room, the next room. The tour guide said his mother, who was dying, of course, was watching him through the window as he wrote. Now, I don't know if any of you guys write, but that'd be some pressure. All the stories about him and the mother, and that he was devoted and all that. Imagine that.
Yeah.
That's pretty chilling. But anyway, don't mean to end it on a downer note, but I was thinking.
Well,
of that.
that's why he wrote.
Wow.
That is part of why he wrote, was to help support her during that final illness.
Yes.
Because he was the main breadwinner of the family.
Right. Imagine that. Just the scope of that's just, anyway, that was always struck me as like, wow, no pressure. So, all righty, that's enough for me.